Hello, this is Shannon Oran with MrsMentoring.com. Today I want to talk to those of you who are thinking about getting into the real estate business and some of the things that you need to know. I know when I first thought about getting into the real estate business was actually when I was 19 years old. I didn't get into the real estate business at that time. I was actually 35 when I got my real estate license. But when I was 19, I bought my first house, and I remember thinking, well, that was pretty easy and fun. Like, I saw a couple houses, we bought the second one we saw, and that was that. I mean, we jumped through a lot of hoops trying to get our loan, but other than that, I thought it was looked like a pretty fun gig. So after the deal was done, I remember calling up our real estate agent and saying, hey, I'm thinking about getting into real estate, and I just wanted to ask you some questions. And this nice older man said, are you crazy? And he was very discouraging to me, to the point that after that phone call, I just filed that away and I was done with that thought. And looking back on that, I'm glad, because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready at that time, but I don't want to be that voice of discouragement to anyone today. That's not my goal. I just want to talk about the good and the bad and the ugly of the real estate business, and not just, hey, it's just all fun and cashing checks and going and seeing pretty homes. There's a lot more to it than that, and anybody going into the business needs to go in with their eyes wide open, right? You need to know what you're getting yourself into. And so let's first talk about why. What is your why? When I actually did get into the business, I was, like I said, 35 years old. I had been in like office administration and accounting and those type of jobs for all of my adult life, and I really had reached a point where I didn't like that anymore. I didn't like being chained to a desk, and it just felt limiting. I didn't feel like I was going anywhere. I wanted to do something different, and I began to pray, and I asked the Lord to help me. And I knew that when I started that, when those thoughts started coming, that I wasn't released from my job that I was at. So I just kept praying, and I would think about it, and I remember writing down, make the vision plain. So I would write down what I wanted, and I'd pray over that, and that went on for a couple of years, until finally I knew that I was being released from my job. Things were shifting, and I knew that things were shifting, and I was, my job was going away, basically. My hours had been cut drastically, and a lot of prayer about that. I also knew that I wasn't supposed to look for another job. And so that was a little confusing to me, because I didn't know of any office jobs that were just going to come knock on my door. But I was obedient, and fast forward a month or two after it was really getting serious and my hours were being cut and that kind of thing, I got a phone call from a friend who was a realtor and ran a team, and he was also a builder, and he called me to come by the office one day, which wasn't an unusual thing. We went to church together. He needed me to pick something up from him regarding church. And so when I went to get that, and I pulled into the parking lot of this real estate company, the Lord spoke to my heart and said, you're about to step into your destiny. And I remember thinking that I was just crazy, and that was just me, and that was just my thoughts. But, I went in, and this office was normally like so busy, like just chaotic. That's all I can describe. Like, people everywhere, noisy. The guy that I was going to talk to and get the thing from, he was always on his phone. I mean, like, always. It was just implanted right here. And so I walk in, and it's like the most peaceful place in the world. There's nobody around. And the guy that I worked for came out in the hallway and is like, hey, I need to talk to you. Do you have a minute? So, of course, everything is just feeling like, what's happening here? So I go in and sit down with him, and he looked at me and he said, I believe that God told me that you're supposed to sell real estate for me. So everything was just coming together, and he didn't really know anything about what I was going through as far as my job, my hours being cut back and all that I remember. I don't remember, that's been 10 years ago, but the first thought that I had was that my husband at one point had been really against the idea of me getting into real estate. I had mentioned it to him at one point. He was like, no, absolutely not. Like, maybe when the kids are grown. Because we knew real estate agents, and we knew how busy their lives were, and we had, little kids. I guess I had about a 12-year-old and a 6-year-old boy at that point, and my husband was just not really on board, so I didn't push it. So when this offer was made to me, I said, that's the first thing that popped in my head is I'm going to talk to my husband. And so when I did talk to him, he said, that's what you're supposed to do. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. So we were all on the same page and one accord. And I went through real estate school, everything. And I thought, well, God did this. He made it so clear to me that this is the way that I was supposed to go. And, the Bible says that he will order our steps and he will lead us in the way we are to go. So I thought, well, if God is definitely in this, he's telling me to do this, I'm going to be like the most successful realtor. There it is. And it was not like that. So for the first 6 months, I didn't sell anything. It was 6 months until I had a closing. So those first few months were just gut wrenching. Like, what is happening? If I had not had that aha, clouds parting and just everything line up the way it did when I got into the business, I probably would have quit. I probably would have went and found me an office job that I was used to, right? That I knew I had a paycheck coming, and that would have been that. But because I knew that God put me in this business, I stayed because I want to be out of the will of God. And so that's my story of how I got into the business, and it really wasn't like, oh, I want to go make $1 million, and I think looking at houses, it was really just a complete God story for me. And there's a little more to it, but I won't get into all that for the sake of time. But it's just as important for you out there in internet world to think about why are you getting in this? Are you certain that you're supposed to do this? I do think real estate is a calling. Maybe you're not a Christian, but I still believe that God will lead people where they're supposed to be. And so, what is your motivation? If your motivation is just money, or you think it just looks easy, then you're really in a bad place. I'm just going to tell you that. It takes a while to be established. It takes a while, to build your business up. It's not all glamorous. It's not all looking at pretty houses. I've looked at some houses that I literally have walked in the front door, and because they smelled so bad, I turned around and walked back out. I mean, there's all different kinds, of houses out there, obviously, and you're not going to just show the pretty ones. So, especially when you're just getting started in real estate. So, just wanted to kind of talk through that and just kind of, what is your motivation? If it's just money, if it's just because it looks fun and easy, you need to dig a little deeper. You need to talk to some more people. And that's the next thing I want to talk about is who's in your corner, who's going to help you. I had some great people in my corner. Obviously, a man who heard from God, who paid for me to go to real estate school, paid for my cell phone, paid all my fees. I mean, when I say God was in it, God was in it. It was like, here you go. And so I'm not saying you have to have that. I'm not saying that, you got to have somebody show up in your life and say, hey, God told me you're supposed to sell real estate, and I'm going to put you through. I mean, that happened for me, but I don't think that's a very common path. But if you are wanting to do it, you still need to have people in your corner. You need to have somebody who's going to help you. I've seen this over and over again where people decide they're going to do this. They go get their license. They put it with an agency, and they go think they're going to learn this business, and they don't really have anybody in their corner. Why? Because the other agents in the office are trying to sell homes, and you're their competitor. And so you really need somebody who genuinely wants to mentor you and help you. And so that would be my number one thing looking back, is I had that. I did have people in my corner. I did have people that were for me and wanted me to succeed. But anybody else that I've talked to, like, you need to have that. You need to have that person. When I was, the second time I was going to get into real estate, when this all took place, I was praying through it. I was making sure. And there's this one guy, I'm not going to mention names on here very often because y'all aren't going to know him anyway, most of you. But there's a guy that I graduated with, a very successful realtor, really great at promoting himself on social media. His wife is actually one of my closest friends through school from like 8th grade on. And I immediately thought about him when all of this was like in my lap. Like, am I really going to do this? Am I going to walk through the store? And I just, for some reason, I wanted to talk to him. Maybe I wanted him to discourage me. Maybe I wanted him to talk me out of it because I was scared. But I called him, and he was so encouraging. He was so encouraging. He was like, this is a great business. You can do this, on and on. And so I want to say this is a great business. You can do it. You can make a lot of money. You can have a flexible schedule. It can create such a great life for you if you put the work in and you surround yourself with great people. But if you think you're just going to jump in, and you're going to just make a ton of money right off the bat and it's going to be easy, you are delusional. There's no other way to say it. And if you were my best friend and we're sitting here across the table from each other, that's what I would tell you. Like, there's a lot more to it than that, even though it can be wonderful and it can be great, and it is for me. But there are still days where I cry. There are still days where I want to pull my hair out. There are still days where I lose money because I showed somebody 20 houses and then something shifts, something changes. They decide they're actually moving to Florida instead of Tennessee, whatever. And you don't get paid. So, I actually lost money because if you've seen the prices of gas lately. But those are the types of things that happen in this business. There's a lot more. And over time, I'm going to share stories and experiences that I've had just to help you, just so you know these are the kind of things that go on, the good and the bad and the ugly. I think we need to really talk about all of that. Another thing that I want to say, some people think they're going to get in the business or they plan to get in the business and do it part-time. Those people don't seem to really make it. The ones that really make it, they have a mentor and they jump in full time. And I'm sure there are people out there that have done it part time and then eventually transition to full time. I don't think I know any of them. If I don't know their story. And if you're watching this and you're one of those agents that did that, please comment and let people know hey, I did it that way and it worked for me, and maybe share some tips or how you made that work or how you made the transition. Also, if you had a mentor, that kind of thing. I'm all about multiple streams of income, so I'm not saying, this should be your only stream of income. I'm all about multiple streams of income. That's one thing that I did learn from a mentor that I had early on. So that's a good strategy. But if you were jumping in feet first, and quit your job and just going for it, you really need to have at least 6 months of your expenses saved. And if your husband or your wife or whoever, if you are in a relationship or marriage, if they can cover all the bills and all, that's one thing. But if your family's dependent on your income and you're leaving your job, you need to be wise. You need to have money in the bank before you make that jump. Just know that you're not going to be getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. It's just, there are exceptions to the rule, but overall, that's the way it is. I also want to share, there's like 1.3 million real estate agents in America right now. Of course, a lot of them maybe are commercial real estate, maybe they work in rentals. I'm primarily focusing on residential real estate agents with these videos and blogs and things that I want to talk, those people I want to talk to. But there's a lot of real estate agents out there. So make sure make sure we need another one. Make sure you're going to be the one that's on the good list. There's a good list. This agent over here, I love working with them. That agent over there, I don't ever want to have to deal with that person again because they were so difficult. They were so hateful. It was just a struggle, the entire transaction. You don't want to be on that list, okay? You want to be able to do everything with excellence. You want to be good at your job. You want to help people. This is an emotional thing, there's a lot of tears in real estate. Some are happy, some are sad, whatever. But you're dealing with people, you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with toxicity sometimes, you're dealing with all sorts of dynamics. And so just getting in there and knowing that you are really helping people. You need to be a counselor. No, you're going to walk with people through this whole process. And if you are shallow and if you're just worried about getting a paycheck and you're just worried about yourself, you're going to end up on that bad list of agents that nobody wants to work with. But if you have a good heart, good intentions, yes, you can make a lot of money, but your primary focus needs to be helping people. Your primary focus needs to be helping people to make good decisions, not talking people into buying a crappy house. It wasn't that long ago I had some people call me and want to talk about buying a house and could I help them, and they had 2 weeks to find a house in this crazy market. Today is like May the 7th, 2022, and we're in the craziest market ever in the past couple of years. And so for somebody to come to me and tell me they have 2 weeks to get into a house before they have to sign a lease at their current apartment or, it's over, and they're doing a VA loan, that's a whole nother subject. But they sat in my conference room, we talked through everything. They currently were in a contract. They had the home inspection. It was bad. And when I say bad, they were telling me things that were wrong, like sewage standing in the yard and bad. And they were sitting in this office, in this chair, across this table from me because they felt like their realtor was pushing them to buy this house that they were now scared. They felt like they were going to, they had no choice, that they had to buy the house. And they were still in their inspection period. They could still walk away. But this realtor was so worried about their paycheck and only about their paycheck that they were pushing them and pressuring them to just accept the house and to move forward. And you know, after I explained to them, you can still walk away. You can still get your earnest money back. Things that their agent should have been telling them. They literally sat there at that table and called that agent and fired them and asked me to help them. Now, do I encourage or do I try to steal? No. Do not ever try to steal somebody else's client. Ever. Ever. If somebody calls me and they're like, oh, well, my agent's on vacation and you know, I just want to go see this house. I haven't really signed anything. I'm not showing you a house because I don't want to work with somebody who's not loyal. So you have to, there's so much to it, and I know I'm going on and on. This is my first video on here, so y'all bear with me, but basically you want to be, you know, if you want to have the right motives, you want to have the right heart, you want to look out for people, not for yourself. And when you do that and you do it right and you do it with excellence, in the end, the money's going to find you. The freedom, the flexibility in your time is going to find you. All that good is going to come to you, but your heart has to be in the right place when you start out. All right, I think that's about everything that we're going to talk about today. If you have questions, please comment below and ask your questions and I'll answer them. You can also email me at shannon@mrsmentoring.com. That's Shannon at mrsmentoring.com. And I will get back to you that way too. So thanks for being here. I look forward to getting to know you better and talking about more things that have to do with the real estate business and helping you to make great decisions. Have a great day.